via email. We have actually some really, like, I think they're pretty great, actually, good questions. And there's something for everybody. So I see some names that are familiar on the call. So I know that some of you manage programs, some of you direct programs and do more of like the executive director role and have program staff that do the direct service. Some of you are from one-woman or one-man shows, and some of you manage like a staff of 20. So I think this is really good diversity, so this is great. So I know that you guys are all muted, but it might be better actually if you are unmuted. So is there a way to test that just to see? I think we'll be able to see if anyone has background noise, or at least if people just want to self-mute on their end, so when they want to speak, you can just speak. You don't have to raise your hand. Because there's only 10 of us right now. I think that's pretty good. Okay, I do hear one. Somebody has like a TV on or something in the background, but I think it's okay. I don't know. What do we think? Do we all like this?
Yeah, everyone is unmuted now.
Okay,
yeah.
Everyone's unmuted. Yeah. So Tony, what are your thoughts? Do you think we should keep everyone unmuted and people just self-mute on their own ends?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, feel free to self-mute, and then that way you have full control. All right. So let's just jump in, shall we? So does anyone on the phone, have you guys come prepared with a burning question that you're just either too afraid to ask for whatever reason, your own peers or your own boards, or maybe a question that you're really interested in hearing what other peers have to say? And we also can use the chat box if people don't feel comfortable asking out loud. If you just want to send a private chat to me with your question, I can ask it out loud. So I'm just going to pause for like 10 seconds just to see if anyone just wants to jump in and ask their own question or wants to chat and type in a question. And if not, it's okay. We can warm up with some questions that were sent to us before the call. All right, so for those of you that just joined, we're just collecting questions right now, and you're all unmuted. So I think Genevieve, you've got some background noise there. So we're going to leave everyone unmuted on our end if it works, but if you want to self-mute on your side, go ahead. All right, so let's just jump in. Why don't we let's flip to the first slide. Let's see what the first question is, and then we're hoping that you guys will be participatory and that you guys will answer some of these too. So the first question, how many one-to-one matches can a full-time staff member handle on their caseload? So this agency is wondering, what's too full, what's not full enough. Who wants to jump in and answer this one? Full-time staff member, how many mentoring one-to-one matches can they handle? Anyone? So like 500 probably? No? What do you guys do at your agency? How many one-to-one mentoring matches do your full-time staff, or if you don't have full-time staff, maybe just part-time staff for perspective? How many caseloads can they handle? Questions for anybody, anyone can answer.
Well, this is Tony at Big Brothers Big Sisters, Central Iowa.
Hey, Tony.
And how's it going?
Good.
This is always, I feel like this is always a tough question. It's always something everybody always wants to know. And I think there are a lot of factors, unfortunately, that go into it. But we kind of did a time task analysis here internally, and kind of what we came up with was right around 80 to 90 matches is kind of what we are using for our purposes right now. Now that could change based on a number of things. For example, for us, the number of matches that are under a year, they take more support and take more time versus those that have been matched together for over a year. So, if a case manager, for example, has someone that has a lot of matches that are under a year, that might be more, obviously that's more time intensive. So that could affect things. But that's kind of the number that we're kind of going with right now.
Okay. So Tony, at Tony's Big Brothers Big Sisters, they did internal studies, and they have come up with 80 to 90 matches per one full-time staff member, dependent upon average match length, meaning if there's a lot of new matches, maybe less than that, but if there's a lot of seasoned matches, maybe closer to the 90. So who else? And then for those of you that have just joined, everyone's unmuted. so feel free to go ahead and mute yourself. I see, Anna, you've got some feedback. Genevieve, you've got some feedback. But if you'd like to share your answer, go ahead. All right, I'll jump in and say that at my Big Brothers Big Sisters agency, we have made a ton of new matches this year. Our program has grown by 248% in the past 12 months, so it's pretty intense. So we have a ton of new matches that have lots of needs, as you guys all know. So our staff aren't able to handle right now a caseload of over 70. We're really hoping that as the matches get more seasoned and settle into our program model, that we'll be able to increase that caseload for our staff. But we tried pushing over 70, and our staff were just not able to keep up. We were just running behind in all of the support that we do behind the scenes. And so we just kind of took a step back and said, all right, maybe we should just make sure everyone has maybe 60 to 65 until our matches start turning 1. So they're actually turning 1 year old now because we made the majority of the matches last September through November. So it'll be interesting for us to see. We're just going to kind of play by year. And but in the Big Brothers Big Sisters Nation, there's really no one answer. This question's asked all the time in our peer sharing groups. And some people think that it's like 120, which I don't know what they're doing. But with the Big Brothers Big Sisters model, that would seem really hard. But then other agencies are saying like 40, which I would say is kind of low for a model. So what do you guys all think? Anyone else have any thoughts? Somebody, let's see, David shares that they have 500 clients served by about 65 senior companions. This is overseen by 2 full-time and 1 part-time staff person. All right, so thanks, David, for that. Oh, and then he says we could use about 2 more full-timers if funding would allow. Smiley face, nice. Yeah, wouldn't we all? All right. Any other thoughts about this question? I know the person that actually sent it is on the call, so if you feel comfortable just like asking for clarification or if the answers were good enough. All right, not hearing a peep. All right, we'll go to the second question. Unless anyone on the call now, we've warmed up, we've gotten into it. Does anyone want to ask their own burning question before we go to one that was pre-sent? Just want to make sure that everyone on the call today gets what they came to accomplish. All right, let's switch to the second question, which is hopefully something that all of us might be able to answer. So if I don't feel like my supervisor listens to my ideas, what could I do differently so this changes? So even without the mentoring context, I think all of us have probably been supervised. So this person's really struggling right now and really could use our help. So what sorts of sage advice should we give? Let's see, who do I know on this call? I know a lot of you. Rita, you're unmuted, at least on our side. Do you have an answer to this?
Actually, I do not.
Okay, it's okay.
I think anytime when you're supervising people, you worry about that. And actually, it's coming from somebody who doesn't feel like they're being listened to by their supervisor. I think you need to go one-to-one with them and you know, don't do it in a group, but maybe do it one-on-one and let them know. I mean, if they have no idea that they feel like they're giving you the attention that you need. It kind of depends on the situation. I've been a principal for many years, and usually during the evaluation process, there's a chance for you to go back to your supervisor. Maybe that would be a good time.
Definitely. That's a really good answer, Rita. So definitely I would say one-on-one, sure. At my staff, we talk all the time about how no one, at least I don't know, maybe not that many people. So chances are, I'll start the sentence out differently, chances are your supervisor isn't waking up in the morning saying, like getting out of bed, like all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, hopping into their slippers, and the first words out of their mouth are, I want to make my supervisee's life a living heck today. Like no one intends to, you know, make somebody feel miserable or underappreciated or unlistened or unheard. So just having that context, I think, has helped my staff, and they take a step back and see, like, well, you know, let's put myself in my supervisor's shoes. Why might not they be listening to my ideas? Is it because they're out of context? Are they random? Is it because we're talking about something and unrelated, then I decide that I feel comfortable enough to share my idea, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about at that point? Or maybe there is context. Maybe it has a lot to do with the discussion that is at hand, but maybe I'm not being solution-focused. I'm just bringing another problem to the table with my idea. So usually ideas are solution-focused. So hopefully, you know, the supervisor is like appreciating what you're sharing, but maybe there's just something that they're not understanding or getting. So what Rita said, I would say is good advice for this person. Setting up a one-on-one meeting with your supervisor and making it the focus of the meeting. I know probably all of us have some sort of regular supervision or just meetings one-on-one or in a group with your supervisor, but usually they have the agenda. And so making it a meeting where you're setting the agenda and how you want to talk about, and just approaching it as if approaching it with a centered point of view. Maybe there's just some things that you're not seeing either. That's. So again, it's never anyone's intention to make you feel like this. I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning and says, I want to make somebody's life terrible today. If they do, then they probably shouldn't be in our field. So I guess, I don't know, that's kind of helped my staff. What are some other thoughts for folks who have joined, like Jessica or Amanda? Any thoughts to this one?
Hey, Katie, it's Amanda.
Hey.
I agree with Rita and you both. Like sometimes it just takes that one-on-one conversation. Maybe the way you're presenting your ideas, they don't understand that you're actually trying to give those ideas or have that constructive conversation. So maybe just asking them how they would be more receptive to that. It's not always an easy conversation, but part of being managed is managing your boss too. And so I think just having that conversation and saying, letting them know what works for you or maybe why you don't feel heard, and maybe just coming to that, working to that together to see what is the best way of presenting ideas and working together in the future.
For sure.
Go
ahead.
Also, this is Rita. When your supervisor is recognizing your contributions, if you would recognize that yourself and say, I really appreciate how you accepted my suggestion. That is kind of like a reinforcement. So that can kind of remind your supervisor that you need that reinforcement. I think recognizing if your supervisor isn't giving you the recognition you want, recognizing anything that she or he does do, I think would be a good start.
That is really good advice, too. David, I think that was a comment from you where he suggested that if the person had a board or a council that they might be able to reach out to instead. So we encourage staff to do that as well, except they hopefully have already talked to me or their supervisor before they've talked to me. There's always some staff, every organization I've worked with, who just go from 0 to 100 without actually telling their supervisor that they have challenges. They go straight to the CEO or the board, and that actually creates additional issues. So I would say just take a deep breath. If you're going to a board member or the CEO or another staff member to talk about your challenges, make sure it's in a way that you're presenting it, that you are looking for help and feedback and guidance for how you should bring it up with the person, not as a venting session. That's, something that every place I've ever worked has created unnecessary challenges, and it actually makes, it makes it harder to talk to the supervisor if you haven't just followed basic chain of command. But again, talk to your peers or talk to your boss's boss or your board if you feel like you just need help, a mentor kind of discussion, like how do I go about bringing this up? I'm not very good at confrontation. What would you suggest? But that's not necessarily the best approach, I would say. So throwing that out. Certainly. All right, let's see. Any other chat questions? Jessica's sharing, I visited with my mentoring advisory board about concerns or changes, and then I share the info with my director. Perfect. Thanks, Jessica. All right, well, let's jump on to the next question, unless somebody who's on the phone would like to ask their own burning question. All right, so our next question that was pre-submitted, how do I help a match that has been together for years but hasn't had any new impact on the child for a while get to the next level? So any thoughts about that? How do I help a match that has been together for years but hasn't had any new impact on the child for a while get to the next level? So I won't call on Val yet, even though I saw that she just joined, but she's got a lot of long-standing matches in her program, unless she just wants to jump in. Tony Osler, I know he has a lot of long-standing matches. I bet all of us do. So what do you guys do there? We're all impact-driven, I'm assuming.
Can you hear me?
I can, or we can, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Genevieve. Hi.
Hi, Genevieve.
Yeah, so we've been having this discussion a lot at our agency lately. You know, kind of reframing is the new buzzword for older matches and stuff. So I think that's just what we're looking at doing is reframing the match, whether it be from, you know, being activities based, the 2 to 4 times per month, you know, if they're older in high school or middle school even, you know, what could be a different focus for them instead? Are they going to maybe try to look at more goals related to high school and completing high school, or even, you know, beyond, whether that be trade or college or whatever, and just acknowledging that they might meet less often, but they maybe will have more focused activities like that, getting them to like a college fair or doing things like that, just repurposing their relationship is one thing we've been doing, I guess.
Nice. I love repurposing the relationship. I like that a lot. Any other thoughts about that? We at Big Brothers Big Sisters, one of the things that's built into our program model, so no matter what Big Brothers Big Sisters, it doesn't matter, all of us do this the same. We all use a youth outcome development plan that we create at the beginning of the match with the parent, the guardian, guardians, the child, the mentor, staff member, and sometimes we get feedback from the counselor, if the child's seeing a counselor, or if we can get a school report from the child's teacher. So we create a lot of goals and kind of try to pace out the match relationship from day one, but sometimes the match hits all the goals like immediately, or maybe we didn't do a good job setting challenging enough goals. So you're supposed to redo this every year anyway, or just like recheck in, make sure the goals are still good, or change it up if you need to. But sometimes waiting a year is too long. So we just encourage our match support specialists to just be really focused on impact every time they check in and do some coaching, and make sure that if the goals aren't relevant, to keep moving forward. And yeah, I guess we try to repurpose the relationship too. I love that. By coming up with some new things. But we definitely ask a lot of folks in our kids' lives what they feel like the child, what their capacity is, as well as the child. So not just asking the child what they would like the goals to be with their parent, like really branching out and bridging the school and counselors and maybe another youth serving organization if they're involved at the Boys and Girls Club, or another one that we're partners with. So that's kind of what we do. Any other suggestions? Val, want to jump in here? What do you guys do for your program?
Well, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. One thing we're very aware of is what the extracurricular activities are that the students involved in, because that may be taking their sights off of what the match originally was. So we start nurturing that. So the mentor might encourage them, oh, I was in basketball. I'm really glad that's going well for you. Maybe I can come to your game on Saturday rather than mentoring this week. So we try to, I guess, repurpose. Yeah.
Nice. And I see a few people have commented, so let's see, who's this? Anna shares that she observes the match and to see what they have in common and then ask what they feel like they can teach each other. That's great. That's important for us to remember. It's not just the adults teaching the child. My little sister has taught me way more, I'm sure, than I've taught her. So I can see that firsthand. And then Jessica shares that their program does check-ins to make sure mentors aren't getting burnt out. Sometimes mentees or their families may need additional help that mentors may try, but can't always help with. They revised their meeting guidelines. They used to be weekly meetings, but they let mentors go to meeting every other week. Yeah, so actually I'm working with another Big Brothers Big Sisters agency in Rhode Island, and their requirements were twice a week at one point, which I've never heard of a mentoring program do that, but I mean, that's great that they tried. But the mentors were getting so burned out. So they went down to once a week, but that still was too much. So they did what Jessica did and are going down to once every other week in the first year, and now once a month in the second year is the minimum expectation. They hope for more, but if it's once a month, they're good with that. So they're for community-based, obviously. School-based and site-based are a little different. So, all right. Other comments to this question? All right. Let's jump to the next one. Just for folks that joined late, if you have any burning questions you'd like to ask, feel free to either type them in the chat section to the group or just to me, up to you. And then if you want to say it out loud, that's fine too. We had a lot that were submitted ahead of time, and they're like good. So they'll keep us busy if you don't feel comfortable or don't have anything that comes to mind. So this is a no pressure phone call, but it's also a safe place. So this question comes to us from a younger professional that works at one of our peer mentoring programs in Iowa. So she's in her 20s, and she has a hard time working with mentors who are over 55. What are some strategies she can use to build rapport and trust? So I emailed her back and asked for more context, and she says that she just doesn't feel like they open up to her. She feels like they just don't respect her. They talk over her a lot. In a couple of match intro meetings, the mentors were kind of rude and disrespectful, but she doesn't think she didn't take it personally. That's just how they just were coming off, as if she didn't need to be there, I guess. So she's just struggling, and it seems like she's narrowing this down to mentors that happen to be on the older side of the spectrum. She says it doesn't seem to happen with mentors that are younger or her age. So any thoughts here? I know at least one of you works with foster grandparents, so maybe you have some good insight. And then all of us, I'm sure, have mentors that are older. Let's see, who hasn't talked? Corey, do you have any thoughts on this topic? All right, guess not. Let's see, who else? Rita, you're still unmuted. Do you have any thoughts here?
Well, since I'm older than 55, I'm not sure. I think there's always going to be a question about age, how you're perceived. I guess I would try to build a relationship. If I was a 20-year-old working with a 55-year-old or plus, I would want them to try to understand where I'm coming from, maybe. And I don't know. This is a tough one since I'm over 55. Maybe she's talking about me.
Well, have you ever interacted with someone who was younger, like early 20s, and you weren't really impressed with the interaction? Maybe thinking about why, and maybe that's transferable to this answer too.
Yes.
I mean, well, and respect. Age doesn't necessarily directly correlate with respect, but it sounds like that is one of the things that she's bringing up. Trust also. So. Yeah, tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable sharing an interaction that you've had with a younger person that didn't impress you.
Well, I think we have different ideas of what is important sometimes, and this is, you can't say that generally, but I'm thinking of one case when I worked with someone. Well, I'm still working with someone who's in their 20s. I just think it has to be a case of they have to feel respected first. Probably before they're going to be comfortable working. I'm taking this from the 20-year-old. If I was a 20-year-old working with someone older, I think the older person would have to feel like they would respect you. Part of that would come from communication, and sitting down, asking them about their experiences, kind of explaining your experiences to them. Let me think about this, and I'll jump back in if I think of something in particular.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. David also shares that he would also the respect comes first. He would respect them. Oh, does someone else have something to say?
Oh, hi. This is Genevieve again.
Hey, Genevieve.
I would just maybe not hesitate to speak of her experience. It doesn't say how long she's been in the human services field, but if they're talking specifically about matches or something, well, in the 2 years I've been doing this, or in the matches that I've coached in the past, this is what I've seen, or things like that. Also, I think asking, what have you done for this in the past, or asking their advice on things usually can maybe endear them a little bit, I guess. So either way, but that's all I got.
Sure. I think that's great. Other thoughts? Someone just took a deep breath. All right, let's see. Somebody wrote, David wrote, try to remember why they're volunteering. They should be working for the same result as we are. I can honestly say some people who volunteer are not great volunteers. People volunteer for different reasons. Yep, that is true. My agency, we took on a program last year. The program partnership with the district had ended, and so we were called to see if we could re-enroll the matches so that the kids didn't suffer and could keep their same mentor and didn't miss out just because the partnership didn't work out. And we noticed that a lot of our older mentors in the other program, as we were re-interviewing them, their reasons for mentoring were a lot different than our usual, if there's such a thing, mentor who walks through our door to be bigs. And the reasons were very, it was for the kids, but it was usually like the third or fourth thing that was brought up. Usually the first couple of things were just about themselves and how, maybe they were lonely because now they're recent empty nesters, or, they have grandkids, but they're so far away, their kids moved away. And so that was first and foremost. And so they're still great mentors, just most of our mentors come in the door and they start talking about how they have such a passion for kids and want to make a difference and see the need every day. They live in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. We all know this. So just, again, seeing the experience where they're at and seeing that this is a mutually beneficial, truly mutually beneficial for them also. Meet them where they're at. I like the comment about sharing how much experience you have in the field. In our interview, we ask our mentors not just about their experiences, but how they hope that we can help them navigate the role as a mentor. And we don't let them not answer. Like sometimes they'll think and say, I can't think of anything, I'll get back to you. And in our heads we're thinking, no, no, no. So we draw out some follow-up questions just saying like, well, you brought up this, was it an experience for you in your childhood, and what if this was the child that you were matched with? They're going through the same thing. Do you feel like I could help in any way? And so getting them to share, like, yeah, actually, that may be triggering, or, I never really figured it out myself when I was a kid. Yeah, I might need some help. So we make sure that before we enter a match relationship that the mentor knows what we're going to be able to help them with, what they can ask us for help, and then that we expect them to. So that's kind of one thing that we've tried. And when I first started out, I was 26, so I already had 6.5 years of higher education experience, and I switched fields. And I started out as a match support specialist, which is in Big Brothers Big Sisters world is the entry-level title. And my boss actually changed my title after 6 days because I wasn't able, I would make phone calls and no one would call me back. I tried to set up partnership meetings and no one would call me back. So when he changed my title, where it was, I was match support manager for a hot second before I was promoted, the manager title, actually I got phone calls back. It was weird. So that might be something small too, if that's an organizational thing that you're noticing. And we've actually changed titles here in Northeast Iowa, and that's actually helped us too. So a little bit of a tangent, but it applies to some of our younger staff who just couldn't get their foot in the door, couldn't get their mentors to call them back. But anyway, let's see. Any other thoughts? I see Anna. Remember that they mean well, just some people are stuck in their ways, but this is true at any age. Yep, that is definitely correct. Other thoughts about this question before we move on? All right, I love the participation. This is great. Well, let's flip the slide and go to another question. Again, though, if anyone has one they'd like to ask, I'll take like a 5-second pause, and feel free just to ask your burning question now. Okay, just want to make sure I'm not ignoring anyone. And then you can always just use chat again. So next question, how can my agency do a better job recruiting male mentors? This question is actually pretty timely because the December peer share call is going to be an hour devoted to this topic. But this person can't wait. She needs to figure out how to do this now. So what are some quick and easy bullet point best practices at your agency that you've tried, that have worked, that have had results to recruit male mentors? And bonus points if it's male mentors of diversity. That's my agency's current issue today. So yeah, any thoughts here?
This is Rita. I have to tell you, most of our mentors are males, and we have some that are very diverse. We went to our local colleges and asked to have them give us ideas of male mentors, and especially those in the athletic field were very willing to give them credit for mentoring. So some of our strongest and most reliable mentors have been our male mentors that are cross-section of races.
Nice. And so tell us more about that. Like, what did that look like? How did you create that partnership? Who did you connect with specifically? Like, who has been like a really good relationship at the college to develop with in terms of like a department, I guess?
Okay. We happen to know, I happen to know the activities director at one of our colleges. I also know who one of the persons involved with social work degree, and went to them, and through them, they suggested people that they thought would be good mentors. We happen to have somebody who's a basketball player, and we have somebody who plays on a semi-pro football team. And in both cases, not only could we ended up recruiting them, but I think through constantly telling them what a great job they're doing, they feel needed, they feel like they're really filling a void, and it in the case of the social worker degree, the person in charge of his program was able to get him some credit for doing it.
That's awesome. So you're using your relationships and you're leveraging them to find additional mentors. So when you talk to people at colleges, are you giving them any materials to help you do the recruiting? Are you giving them the language to do the recruiting? Or are you working like side by side with them and doing the recruiting with them together?
Well, I'm on a couple different committees with these people outside of actually our program. So there's that partnership to begin with. So that helps. When you go and explain, and for instance, if a coach is giving the time for you to present to their team, that really gives the team the idea that the coach is behind it, and they really always want to get the approval of their coach. So I would say, and then I would say that's the main way we could recruit and how we get the message out. And then truthfully, after the couple that we got started, they went to their friends and they were able to recruit from their, teammates.
That's perfect. What do you all think? Do you guys do something similar to recruit men? Something in addition, different? I'm going to start picking out the males that are on this call. Let's see. Tony, are you still here? What do you guys do to recruit men at your agency?
Big surprise. I knew you were coming after me.
Hey, it's been a while. We haven't heard you talk. Yeah, and then Val, you're next.
I think that one thing we do is use our other bigs, our other volunteers is probably our biggest tool, I think, that we do. So as we do have male volunteers sign up, probably the first question is, hey, do you have any friends that want to do this? So just kind of that personal connection with them and trying to get them to think of other people in their life that would be a good mentor as well. So that's kind of an angle that we take. Recently, we've actually made a connection with through a church, and they have kind of a men's group as well. And so we're just in the process right now of working on ways to get in front of them and get in front of their congregation. And there's a couple of African American men who are on this committee that we met with, and so they're really kind of focusing or trying to help us focus on the best way to approach this and the best message to give and the best time and avenue, all that kind of stuff. So really we're kind of defaulting to them, I suppose, to help us determine the best approach to take.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that, Tony. Val, how about you? What do you all do in Independence, Iowa to recruit men?
Well, we like to go to the local coffee shops and have in the mornings early, like 7-ish. And I think Abby's done some of that here in Independence too with the community-based mentoring. And you don't always get them right away, but when they're, maybe sitting around chatting after you leave, they might say, so have you ever mentored? Well, what'd you do if you mentored? Because what we should probably do is take some of our male mentors and plant them at the coffee shop so they can start the conversation when we walk away. Because it's less,
that's awesome.
It's less intimidating if it comes from a friend rather than the agency,
That's a really
the other
great
thing-
approach, yeah.
And the other thing we've done, of course, is go to football games, basketball games, just kind of put our sign out, we're here. Well, what do you do? So we just kind of give our little spiel.
Nice. That's great. We do something similar. We arm all of our bigs during National Mentor Month will be the next time we do it, and then we try to do it over the summer, like in August when we really need to find new male recruits for the beginning of school. We'll create a couple of pieces of literature and then give them to our mentors so that they actually have it. They'll be able to send something to their employer's newsletter. We'll write something like a couple paragraphs. They can change it if they want. We'll give them some posters to hang up. We'll give them some social media posts, like 10 usually of them that they can put in their Facebook or Twitter. We'll give them images that they can use too, and that certainly helps. When it comes from another mentor, I feel like it means more than when it comes from one of our staff members. So that's a really good approach too. Let's see, Corey, we are hearing some feedback, so if you're able to put yourself on mute, or if you want to share, that's always a choice. Or Nicole, if you can mute him, that would be great.
On October 17th.
I'm not sure how helpful this will be. This wasn't the most successful campaign that we had, but we did recently do a barbershop campaign where we targeted a few barbershops around town and actually had a contest among them who could refer the most bigs and had prizes and like a barbecue and stuff like that. I don't think it needs to be that in depth, but we figured that's a place where men are sitting for 20 minutes or more and just kind of zoning out and not necessarily on their phones and stuff. So that was kind of a good opportunity to target them there. But again, we didn't have a ton from it, but maybe somebody can take that idea and improve on it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know some agencies have tried that. Is anyone on the phone where you've done a barbershop campaign and it's been successful? You might be able to share some of the reasons why you feel like it was a success at your agency. We haven't tried it yet, but we've thought about it. Okay. David shares that they also struggle recruiting males, but let's see. But for our programs, they have to be 55 plus, so it becomes even more of a challenge. I've heard so many good ideas suggested already. We also struggle recruiting males, but for our programs, oh, okay, sorry, I read that again. So yeah, he likes what everyone said. That's good. We talk a lot at my agency about churches too, and we actually sent people to 18 churches last year. They got to talk either during coffee hour or actually during the worship, and we didn't recruit a single mentor, never mind the male. So churches probably aren't the best, at least for us, because usually the folks that I guess go to the churches, they've pretty much been tapped by that church, or they're already volunteering heavily in the community. I'm sure there's probably others of you who have had great luck with churches, but yeah, we were so excited and we failed. So we tried it. We might try it again, maybe on a smaller scale, but I don't know. History's hard sometimes. We also, so I think probably most, if not all of us, when we do our background checks on mentors, we do reference calls. And one of the questions that we have at the very end of the reference call with the mentor's references is that we actually ask the reference if they would like more information about being a mentor. And some of them aren't in our service area, but that's fine because there's mentoring programs everywhere. We could refer them if they were calling from a different state. But most of them are from our service area, so it's really great when one of them says, yes, tell me more, and then we get them in for an interview, and then they become a mentor too, all because one person used them as a reference on their background check. So we've had some luck there. We probably could be doing a better job. I don't know if all of our staff remember to ask that question at the end because we're so excited when the references call us back. But we've had some luck in the past with that. All right, well, this is going to be its own call topic next month. So I already let Mary know, Rita, that you are doing well recruiting men. Maybe you can be one of the panelists if you wouldn't mind. And we'll find some other agencies that have done a pretty great job and have some ideas they'd like to share a little bit more in depth. But this is sort of like a flyover for this topic for this person who needs some ideas now. So anyone have any burning questions they'd like to ask? We still have 4 more questions that were pre-submitted, but you guys are on the call, so you guys should be able to ask anything you want before we go to the ones that were submitted. And some people have been private chatting with me, but not for questions, for other things. So feel free to use the chat and send me to just me if you don't want to ask out loud. All right, we'll go to the next one. So this one I think probably all of us have felt at times. So sometimes I get overwhelmed by all of the work I have to do, and it seems like it's never ending. How do you stay motivated to do your job through busy, stressful times? So yeah, this one's for any of you. If any of you have not felt like this, I would like to know if your agency's hiring or your school district's hiring. So yeah, who would like to jump in here? Jessica, are you in a spot where you can share? How do you achieve work-life balance? You're still self-muted, so if you are talking, I apologize. We can't hear you. Let's see, who's unmuted? Who hasn't talked in a while? Amanda, are you able to unmute?
I am. Sorry, there's just a little commotion going on around me.
It's okay.
So this is, I think, we all probably have felt this one way one time or another, right? Or all the time. But usually what I do is I just have a running list, and I am not really a list person or an organized person. But I usually just have a list of things that I have to get done by the end of the week. And then I have another list of like ongoing things that maybe aren't due right away and I can put off, and then a list of like kind of like when I have time I'll get to these things. They're not urgent, or there might just be my own self-motivated projects, and I just kind of work that way. But I also my work energy peaks and flows, and I've learned that, so I know like there's certain times of days where I can buckle in and get more done, or I can block off my calendar a little easier, and so I've just learned to really put time into the projects that need to get done during those times, and then it's okay. I've also told myself to like switch in between things, so if I'm kind of getting burned out, let's say I'm writing a grant, so I've looked at that for 4 hours, I need a break, and then so there might be something else I can work on that doesn't take so much brain power or whatever, and just kind of give myself a break for 20-25 minutes and then go back to what needs to be done. So really I've just over time have had to learn what times how I work best, how does my work flow go, and just kind of schedule my day accordingly if I can, and just know if I do have big things coming up or deadlines, just to block off time for myself to make sure that's when those things get done, and sometimes that's what I have to do to make sure it gets done. So I hope that's helpful.
That is. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing. Anna writes that when she feels overwhelmed, she tries to remember the overall goal of the organization and what the mission that you're trying to achieve is. And then she also says, to-do lists are my best friend. And I also feel, or she also feels like having a time away from work, like a hobby or other interest, helps too. For me, sometimes I realize that for like the first hour of my day, I've only been helping others. Like I just get sucked into voice messages and emails from the night before or the morning, like the people that work earlier than me, or email any time of the day, which I guess I do too. So sometimes I just have to take a step back and really pay attention to what I'm focusing on my time on. I love doing things that require no thought at all first because I get them done fast, and then I jump into the things that I need to like really be mentally strong for. But that's not always good because then I get tired and bored, and when I'm ready to do things that require thinking, I don't have energy left to do it because I've just done essentially busy work for a while. So delegating to others in my office has been something that I've been doing better at recently, and then just shutting off my email and not doing other people's work for them until at least I've done like one thing on my to-do list that has a deadline. And that's hard because a lot of people are used to me helping them like immediately. That's just like I've built this reputation now, and so trying to break that is even harder. So before you go down that path, maybe set some boundaries before you get to that level. Like some of my staff are having a hard time when I don't reply to them right away now. And it's not because obviously it's anything personal, but I just need to do this for myself right now until I get a little less overwhelmed. So, and I'm transparent with them. I tell them this. I don't just leave them guessing. So I think that's important too. If you change your workflow or your work habits, you have to have that conversation with those around you so they know that, it's nothing that they've done, or that you will get back to them, just not as quick as it has been, unless it's like urgent. So let's see. I think this is from Nicole. Not having her email up and running while she's working on a different project, she feels like she has to respond right away and then keeps getting interrupted. Definitely, I feel that as well.
Hey, Katie, it's Amanda again. I have one last thing. And it's always good just to take a 15-minute break and just get up and walk around and get out of your work area, like your desk, or even if it's just a walk to the water fountain or whatever it is. Sometimes that can get, if you're stuck on something, just getting up and out of the situation can start your brain going again. It's funny how many times leaving work that all of a sudden I have all these great ideas come to me at the end of the day, and so I try to have something to write them down, but that's just another tip as well, because oftentimes we feel like, oh, if we get away or if we take a break, like we're going to get behind, but it's actually helpful.
Well, once you...
Nice. All right, well, let's jump on to the next question. I don't see any others typed in. So thanks, everyone, for sharing that. I think those are some really good strategies. This next one's a policy one. So for those of you that do fundraisers, one agency is asking, do you allow alcohol at them? And if there's alcohol, do you allow your mentees to attend? And then why do you or why don't you? I'm hearing some feedback. It looks like it is, oh, can't tell anymore, so maybe they muted. So alcohol, fundraisers, what do you guys do? If you do kids come? My agency, we do a bowling event and we do a casino night, and we do other events that don't have alcohol, but those do. My agency has a policy that we don't pay for alcohol, which we might be changing because we know that if we paid for alcohol, probably more people would come. We do invite littles, but at the bowling alley, we make sure they're far away from the teams that we know have a history of being heavy drinkers, and we don't invite littles that are triggered by alcohol to any of our events that alcohol's at anyway, so that would be like our first step. And then at the casino night, it's a very heavy drinking night, and so if we do have littles, they come immediately and tell their story and then leave before people get a little too happy. But I know it's not a good fit for like our youth serving mission, but it's what drives our fundraisers and it's how we make revenue. And I'm sure that some programs would disagree with our approach, but that's just what we've settled on for now. So what about everybody else? Tony, what do you guys do in Des Moines? Or Val, if you have fundraisers, you probably have a school district policy that you guys have to be mindful of.
Yes, in Independence we don't allow it because we try to keep all events kid friendly because we have so few that everybody can come to. But the school itself, we have like the Mustang Foundation, the Athletic Foundation, they have activities where that is allowed, but it's an adult event. Perfect. So we don't encourage kids to come to that, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd say the majority of ours are adult events as well, like our bowling and golf event and fundraisers and that kind of thing. So we really don't have mentees attend those. It's more geared towards adults in the community or sponsors or businesses, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. The person that asked that is on the phone, so feel free if you want to jump in if you need some more information or want to private chat me if you're not happy with these answers so far. But I guess it just depends what your agency's values are, if it's a value question, or, I mean, for some agencies, your insurance probably wouldn't cover it. We have to get extra insurance for some of our events that we do. Or we have to create some opportunities at the end where we need like Uber or like a ride-sharing program. It's, just what we've decided to do to work around that. Yes, it's about the kids, but sometimes you have to meet your donors halfway, and that's what we've decided to do. So, other thoughts? Rita, I see you're unmuted still. Do you have this situation? Do you do fundraisers?
No, we don't do fundraisers. In fact, we're a Department of Labor grant, but we make sure that all of our mentoring activities, because several of our 14 to 24-year-olds actually have substance abuse issues, we make sure that that's not even a possibility. Now, we go to football games and things like that, and there's other persons drinking. However, when we're at an activity as a Boost organization, we don't allow anyone to and our mentors understand that, our case managers do. It's just not appropriate for ours, since so many of them, a high percentage, probably about, let's say 50 to 60% of them have some kind of issue. So we just don't even have that as an option.
Don't do it. That makes sense. Yeah, and I also should add too that your agency should also consider like allowing, if your staff are allowed to drink. I mean, our policy is that our mentors are never allowed to drink in the presence of their little child, their mentee. There you go. So if they choose to go to Bowl for Kids Again, they would like to drink, then they need to leave their mentee at home, or they just don't drink. And then staff, we do not allow to drink, even though everyone else is. We need our staff to stay sharp. So that's also another rule that we have. We also don't, like our board also doesn't, they choose not to drink either, but they could, I guess, but it's also important to them. They need to stay sharp and make sure that people are not getting a little carried away. So, all right, let's see, it is 2:50. So we'll do one more question, see where that takes us. And we have some just wrap up things to cover, unless there's anyone on the call that wants to ask the last question. We don't have to talk about this next one, which is about asking for a raise. Anyone want to ask something? All right, so our last question today will be, I haven't received a raise in several years, but my organization seems to be doing very well financially. So how do I go about asking for a raise? I thought this was an interesting one. Self-advocacy. We're trying to encourage our mentees to learn this ability, but sometimes as adults, it's hard, especially when it has to do with money. For some of us, maybe for some of us it's not. So anyone fit in here? Maybe like in the past you struggled with this. Maybe you're good at this now. Maybe you currently have a fear. And what your strategy has been. Let's see, who hasn't talked in a while? I know some of you, your microphones aren't working, so I will not call on you. I think Jessica's on the phone. Let's see. Rita, Tony, or Val? Or David, if you have a chat answer, or Anna, chat answer.
This is Val in Independence. I've been in that situation a long time ago, before I was even with the school district, and there was just there wasn't a policy in place. You know, some places have a policy that you automatically get a 10% or something like that. And so I would ask if the company has a policy about raises, because you haven't noticed one. Is there an evaluation process? Because I'm evaluated once a year with the school. You know, I would just ask questions as to what's the policy of that organization.
Nice.
So you're not actually talking about the funding, you're asking about company policy.
Yeah. I think that's a great approach. Other thoughts? Like, I bet if we had the ability to do a poll using this platform, I bet it would either be split, or more of us would have also a hard time asking for increased money. I'm assuming, although I think some of us on this call have been in the mentoring field or in the work field for a while, so maybe not. But I think that it is hard, and you know, but sometimes you do have to self-advocate if you do realize that it's affecting your morale. Big Brothers Big Sisters of America now, we have 25 standards we have to follow in order to be a Big Brothers Big Sisters agency, and one of them includes a compensation philosophy requirement. So all agencies have to have a written out compensation plan for employees for like starting wages, like the range and the why, like what experience do they need to have to get this versus that amount. And then they also need to have a plan for like raises and how they're going to make sure that they're following industry standard salaries in their area to stay in line with other youth-serving organizations. So my agency has this, our staff members have it, and they know it, and we do, I think, a lot better than we used to in the past. And then at my last Big Brothers Big Sisters agency, it wasn't a standard yet, so this wasn't written down, and it did create some friction. So yeah, I would say Val's approach, I think, would be great, asking what the policy is before you start. But you know, I guess I'm trying to think of like what good questions would be if your agency does have a policy and you would be eligible based on what the policy says, like maybe saying something you know, like, hey, I don't even know, I guess it would be so dependent on the person's personality and who you're talking to, but I guess if you're showing the value of your work and you're meeting program goals, then you have a built-in case. I would say that if you're not meeting goals and it's not a capacity issue, that asking for a raise might be a little bit harder, because if you haven't reached goals yet, then I guess you haven't earned your keep. Is that a controversial sentence? I'm sorry, but I don't know. I mean, our staff here don't get raises unless they've hit impact goals, and I mean, we don't set them up to fail, so we set them up to succeed. We give them the resources they need to do their job effectively and above and beyond, which is what we're looking for. They have goals, but they know that we're hoping that they achieve them, not just like hit them like bare minimum every month. and that's just like built into our culture. So our staff have it's pretty easy in quotes, coming to one of their supervisors and saying, you know, hey, I've hit this for 6 months now. I'm just really wondering, you know, what the next steps would maybe be in a raise, you know, when I might be eligible for one, and having that honest conversation. So I don't know. What do you guys all think that are still on the phone? I know some of you have had to leave a little bit early. Let's see. David says, show your value to the program. A great deal of nonprofits do, however, have a budget set and claim there is no funding. I can say that as a supervisor, not at my current agency, but in the past, I have used that as a reason because I didn't want to get into it with the employee. But I could have given them a raise if I was happy about their performance, but they just weren't accepting that they weren't performing, and so I had to say, yeah, we have a budget. Sorry, there's nothing I can do this year to get them. That was what they heard. They didn't hear feedback. They heard, like, budget. So, I don't know. All right. Any other thoughts before we close out with a couple of other comments from the Iowa Mentoring Partnership? All right. Well, the last question was, how do you hold staff accountable for program expectations? So that'll be, when we do this again, the burning question part 3 call. We'll start off with that one. How about that? So I anticipate that one is a long one. So maybe that could be its own topic someday too. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending. We just have one more slide with just some updates. So Mary has created an Iowa Mentoring Partnership Program Facebook closed group. And I think if you search for it, if you search for IMP program, I think it pops up. So we're hoping to create this group so we have another way to connect as peers throughout the state. It's worked well for some other mentor programs like Teammates and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so we're hoping to connect Iowa mentoring professionals with each other. And I think the last time I checked, there were 15 of us in it. So it's starting, and so ideas can be shared in that group. Again, if people have burning questions and want to post it in the group, it shows up in people's news feeds and people can reply to it. It's just a really easy way to engage with each other if you're on Facebook. So we're testing that out. We also can post like forms and documents and things like that. So if people need to share strategic plans or interview questions that they ask at their agency, or reference questions that you ask to potential mentors, references, things like that, I see that as like a really valuable tool. So we're hoping that it works, and so help us by joining. We'd love to have you in. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. I didn't even realize that the rest of the 3 sentences on that slide were about that. And then our next call will be on December 7th. And like I said before, the topic for that call is male recruitment. So if you are an agency that does exceptionally well at recruiting males, we would love to hear from you and include you. It will be hopefully a panel discussion, not just one agency presenting. We're hoping to get a lot of different ideas and approaches for that. So that's what's next. Some of you asked me a couple of questions during the call about things that I do not know, and Mary unfortunately was unable to participate today. So I've just been emailing her your questions, and she should reply back to you directly about your needs. There's a question about the certificates for Mentor Month that the governor usually does, and actually I don't know. Val or Tony, do you know if we're doing, I'm assuming we're doing that again this year. There just hasn't been talk.
I think it was in the last newsletter, Katie.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was? Okay. I guess I missed that too. Whoops, apparently I didn't read that close enough. So I think Anna was the one that asked that. So yeah, if it's not in the newsletter, then Mary will reply to the answer, and then I'll let you know. But great. Well, I think that's it. So again, thank you everyone for participating today. I loved the discussion, and thanks Nicole for helping us out with the slides and getting us set up. And I guess we'll see you next month at 2 p.m. on December 7th for male recruitment. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Katie.